It's definitely a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
The seat's ripped. It definitely looks like the tank needs a little bit of TLC.
Mm-hmm. So we're trying to get the drum brake off right now, but it is solid stuck in there. We're trying to get this thing off. We've been smashing on it for a while, which is like concerning for me because I'm looking, making sure we're doing everything right. We'll see how this thing looks. There's already literally black powder just falling out of it. And it's just puffing out of there like dust. So this thing probably ran till steel. Like nothing in there, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it's coming. It's so close.
Dude, I'm so excited to see what's inside here.
Bunch of dust.
Wow. Okay, so you want to explain our findings?
A lot of dust, brake dust, and asbestos.
Yeah, and look at this, down to the steel, down to the bare metal on these brakes. The rear wheel wasn't turning, and I said probably that it's just the rear brakes all rusted in there, and we were actually right. So, all right, well, the transmission does work though. We established. Transmission does work. When we took all of this stuff holding the brake, it spun just fine. First gear makes it stop, put it in neutral, and it just kept spinning. So it all works really well, luckily. So we just took the spark plugs out. We need a new fuel filter, need a couple other things. I'm gonna see if I can get a battery, all kinds of stuff so this bike can actually start for the very first time. I did install the new ignition on it. So once the wiring's figured out and we got a battery, we should be able to diagnose a little bit farther what this bike needs. So we're headed to the store right now, get all the stuff that we need. So let's head out. Let's do this. Doesn't surprise me.
What sort of gasket?
It's RTV for sure. Yeah. See, they definitely took this case off.
Oh.
Anyway, we're back from the store. We got a fuel filter there. We got 2 Autolite spark plugs. And what else did we get? Oh, we got oil. So we're changing the oil currently. Trying to get the what is that thing called, the oil filter cover off, and they had totally stripped out one of the so anyway, we had to take the little crash bar off to get access to that. So that's what we're doing now. All right, so we got the spark plugs installed, we got the oil changed, we got a new bolt for the oil filter cover as well, and we also got the fuel lines and all of that hooked back up. We took the tank off and we did test that the fuel was good coming through the tank and out the lines, and it all looks good, at least good enough to start it for the first time, hopefully today. Who knows. Right now we're figuring out the ignition switch and get this thing after. I mean, if the wiring's good, we can just fire it up, see what it sounds like. So let's hope and cross our fingers that it all works. We actually just solved it. Hallelujah. So basically, so you can see the neutral light comes on there. You can actually hear the fuel pump engage as well. We don't have it connected with fuel. And if you do push the start, there's not quite enough juice to crank it over, but you can see that the low fuel light comes on and the oil pressure light comes on. So that's what it should be doing. And we also have the headlight working and all the rest. So we're actually ready to start it in the next couple minutes, but our next task is to get this connector actually connected up. These wires were really hard to figure out which one goes where. There were no real diagrams online to do anything to help us out, so it was just kind of plugging them in where they should go. And one setup almost worked, but only 3 wires were connected to start it, so we kept poking around and we got the right combination finally. And so yeah, it's all looking good. We may need to get a new battery. This one plus the halfway charged jumper pack. I don't know if that will do it. So that's where we're at. Yesterday we wrapped up and we did get electricity and the wiring harness is working just fine. But today we tried to start it last night. But basically you'd hear the solenoid click, but the starter wouldn't engage. So it wouldn't start the bike, obviously. And so today what I did is I took the starter motor out and it doesn't appear to be turning. Basically when I push the start button on the motorcycle, I can see it like click and want to turn. But it just doesn't. So I'm thinking the starter motor might be good, but might not be getting enough electricity to it because this was sketchily attached by the previous owner. I might just get a new connector for that, like a battery terminal, and see if it will start that way. By that test, you can see that the starter does work. It doesn't seem to, I mean, it's definitely not a new one. I don't know how old starters, how they're supposed to sound, but I can assume that's about how they should. So what I think is probably the problem is this wire. It is clearly a little bit old. First of all, this is supposed to have a different style connector on it, and it's duct taped, electrical taped, all crazy, and it's clearly, the wires are all snipped out in there. So I think it's just not getting enough juice over to the starter. So I'm gonna replace that really quick and we'll see if that solves the problem and this bike starts up. I'm really hoping it does. This is the wire, this is the positive lead that was running to the starter. And look, somebody kind of just like twisted this together, like didn't even twist it. Like it's literally just flopping around. I can't imagine that conducts electricity too well. So I replaced that with a brand new, very nice looking, very strong little cord there. It's an 8-gauge wire. I did test before I installed it again that there's plenty of electricity flowing through here. The starter spun just fine. Still nothing. Alright, so this is what it looks like inside. Their RTV job was so bad. It's a miracle it wasn't leaking. But anyway, I found some welds here that don't appear to be stock to me. They look like a freaking 2-year-old did it. So I'm not sure what the deal is there. Internally though, it looks pretty good. A common issue with the Yamaha Virago, this model, for the starter, the gear gets worn and even though the starter is good, it won't be able to spin it. So that's what I was really wanting to check here. And I was also concerned about the transmission shifting right. It was a very hard shift for the, when the lever was on. Every time you'd click it down or up, it would stay there and you'd have to kind of bring it back to the middle with your foot. So that was annoying and I was just hoping there's not a bigger problem there. Doesn't appear to be. Looks like it's all good. So that's what I was looking into right now, was just seeing if the starter gear was bad. It looks like, I mean, everything looks really good in here. It really, no concerns from what I see. So I'll reinstall everything. It must just be a starter issue why it's not starting. So I'll grab another one of those hopefully tomorrow, but I might have to order a new one. I'm not sure. I'll give the place a call, see if they have one. Alright, so I figured it out. That stupid weld that they put there, they had just lost the nut that was supposed to go onto here and lock it in place. They literally just lost it and decided to weld it on there. So that is ridiculous. I hope this build isn't gonna be a nightmare, but there's so much stupid stuff that I'm finding that is just getting ridiculous at this point. So cleaned out the tank just a little bit today, and another stupid thing I found is there's actually a leak, a small leak. There probably got poked, the hole got poked in the side of it or something, but there's leaks a drop every now and then just out the side of the tank. And case is back on. So today, finally, I got a new starter. I think this is probably the weak point, and where this system is going wrong is probably the starter. Solenoid seems to be okay, so I'm gonna try switching this out, and if it still doesn't work, I might just send this back because I think that starter is good, but it was only getting 10 volts through it when I tried it last time. So maybe this will help. We'll see. Let's install it. Nothing. Alright, so my next best guess at this point is it must be a wiring thing. It could just be that there's some kind of a fail-safe if there's a warning anywhere in the wiring that the starter doesn't engage. I don't know. So I think my next best thing, and since the wiring was so sketchy to begin with, I think I'm just going to go through and make sure everything's connected right, doesn't have any corrosion, all the connections are good, and everything's where it should be. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. I'll start stripping this down, and that also works toward the end goal as well, to get the bobber look. So I'll just take all this off. There's an igniter box in here that might be the problem, and since I only got 10 volts through the starter when I would hold the start button down, it leads me to think that there's something wrong with the wiring. There's some resistance in there somewhere that's not getting it up to 12 volts, and if it's not at 12 volts, the starter's not going to crank. So I think that might be my problem. The starter, I think, was good. So we'll see what I do with the new starter. We just need to get this figured out so I can figure that out. So let's do it. Alright guys, so in my searches I did find some kind of, I do not know what this is. It almost looks like a regulator. I don't know, it was behind the foot peg, the passenger foot peg, and it looks very, very old and worn out. So that might be the problem. It may be restricting some electricity flow through here. It looks like it does go maybe to the stator, because it has 3 solid wires. That might just go to the stator, and it might be causing a problem. I also found in my searches, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a ground wire here, and it's completely covered in grease. Chances are the connection there is not very good, which could reduce the voltage that's going through the bike. So let me clean that up and see if that's an easy fix. I really hope it is. Alright guys, so I cleaned that up, nice and shiny. And the electric and wiring seems to be fine. So it's with great sadness that I say this engine might be seized up. I think the starter might be engaging, but it can't turn the engine over. So that's the next thing I'm checking into. This might suck, but we gotta make sure we cover all our bases, and I think that is what it's pointing, what everything is pointing us to. So hopefully that's not the case. I'm crossing my fingers, but we gotta dive into it, see where it leads us. So let's do it. Sure is looking like the engine's seized. We'll see if I continue this build. We'll see. Alright, so I'm still getting the... Everything works, but I just get the push and click. No crank, and you can definitely hear the solenoid doing its job. But I get nothing. So that's the problem we're trying to fix. Can we do it? Who knows? Sure, I'm trying though, dang dude. Also the fuel light comes on, so that's the oil light, I think, the oil pressure light. But yeah, the fuel light comes on too, so if anyone knows what's going on, feel free to help me. If it came down to it though, I wonder how hard, it doesn't look like it's that hard to drop the engine out. But I just don't know if I want to rip the whole thing apart. It looks like it's a really simple engine. I mean, it's just a V-twin from the 90s. Looks like it's only held on by not too much. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens and what I find out. But it sure is nice having bikes that actually work. So that's what I'm gonna call the episode. I don't know if it's gonna run, I don't know if it's gonna start, but it didn't this episode, so sorry about that. But we'll try to figure it out next time. I'm crossing my fingers that the engine isn't seized, or there isn't a deeper problem than like wiring in a starter. So we'll try to keep diagnosing this, keep moving forward. If there is a larger problem, I really don't know what I'm gonna do with this build. I haven't put too much into it yet, so it's kind of a good point to jump out now if I need to, so we'll see. We'll diagnose that in the next episode. I'll do my research tonight. We'll get stuff figured out, but I'll talk to you next time, guys. I'll see you then.